Welcome. It's great to be together. If we haven't yet met, my name is Joel, and it's just a joy and a delight to be together. Thank you for everybody who shared this morning. We believe in a God who is still alive and speaks and cares and is living and is part of our lives. And wherever you are in your faith journey, more than anything, we want you to experience what we've experienced. The love of Jesus, the mercy of Jesus, the kindness, the goodness. More than anything, we want you to have an experience and an encounter with the living God, and his name is Jesus, and I'm just so grateful for us to be able to be here today. Hey, I don't know about you, but when I was younger, we grew up in the south of the United States, and in that part of the states where I was in, I grew up in Atlanta, and we have this mountain range. You might have heard of it. It's called the Appalachian Mountains. There's a mountain range, a mountain trail that sort of goes up that sort of southeast sort of coastal area. And when we were younger, there was some friends of ours that were part of our church when we were growing up, and we had a number of children, a few of us boys, and they had a number of kiddos as well. And so there was like a whole group of us that would get together, and we'd go on these like backpacking trips. And when you go on a backpacking trip, what you do is you put everything in your bag that you're going to take with you. You know, your sleeping bag, your food, your water. It's not like just a little rucksack and you park your car and then go for a couple-hour walk and then go back to the car. So we had to take everything with us. Funny story, sometimes we got caught in blizzards, and every time we went away, it was just horrible weather. So we blamed my dad and this guy named Eric. We were like, you guys picked the worst weekends ever. You've got anyway, they're just no good at picking a good weekend to go away. But when I look back at some childhood photos, there's lots of pictures of when I was a younger boy, probably from the ages of, I don't know, maybe 11, 12, 13 upwards. There's lots of little family holidays, these weekend breaks of ourselves and my brothers standing on the side of a rock with this other family that we used to go away with, and we sort of journeyed with them, and then as we all grow older, don't we, and life changes. I remember, when I was 15 and my mother was diagnosed with cancer, and then 3 years later she died, so we had a really, as you can imagine, a pretty rough, rubbish, stupid 3 years, right? But when I look back at photos and think about moments, this same family shows up. This same family was there to help hoover the floor when it needed to be cleaned, and they helped bring meals, and they helped look after, our younger siblings. I was a bit older, but they helped look after the family, and they coordinated hospital visits and stuff like that. And I don't know what you've got in life and whatever journey you go through in life. But if you think about it, there's probably moments maybe when you're in childhood and when you're in school and you went on trips and there was this kid that you always hung out with and you guys always did stuff together. Or maybe like me, there's an experience where, as you got older, you kind of grew up with these people. Or maybe there's even someone in your life who you went through something with. And if you look back at those moments, there's certain people that would show up. There might not be a real photograph, but you know what I mean? A photograph in your mind, the photograph in your heart. If you think about those journeys of life that you've been on, there's these people that showed up in these pictures. Maybe it was someone that was a really big influence on your life. Maybe it was somebody like a teacher. Maybe someone was like a sports coach. Maybe it was like a mentor in business or someone that just helped you when you were younger. But if you think about these different moments in life, maybe there's somebody there. And I pray that you have got someone in your life like that. Or you've had someone in your life like that. I hope. I mean, my desire for you, whether you follow Jesus or not, is irrelevant. On a human level, I hope that you've got somebody in your corner. I hope that you do. I hope that as you go through different moments in life, you got somebody that cheers for you, someone that is for you. Just on the human level, don't we want that for one another? Nothing to do with what you believe. Just we want you to have somebody in your corner. We're doing this series and we're looking at some stuff over these 3 weeks of the summer, and we're looking at good advice to help you reach your destination. We want to be super practical with this series. And when you came in this morning, hope if you haven't got one of these last week, we've been handing these out. If you haven't got one today, there's one on the table at the back, so make sure you grab one before you go. It's just got some really practical stuff. It summarizes everything that we've been going to be doing for these 3 weeks, so make sure you get one of these travel guides. And see, we all have been to different places. We've all gone different places in life, and we're all going somewhere. That's the other thing, isn't it? We've all been places, and we're all going somewhere. Last week we talked about how, if you think about life is a highway, but life isn't, doesn't go in reverse. Life only goes forward. And we're all going somewhere. We are all heading somewhere. Whether you think about it consciously or not, we are all going somewhere. I'm powerfully reminded this morning that there's somebody there at the end, no matter what our beginning and our end. Thank you for what you shared, Richard. That in our future, we know there's somebody there. And whether you're consciously aware of it or not, you are going somewhere. You're heading somewhere. We can only go forward in life. You don't get do-overs. We don't get sort of redos. And in our heart, we all want to get it right. Again, you don't even have to be a follower or believer of Jesus. Actually, you want to get it right, don't you? You want your future to work out well? Again, it's a human thing. It's a human thing. All of us, it's universal. We want to get the future. We want it to work out. Yeah? We don't want it to not work out. We just want it to work out. And I think as followers of Jesus, I think as a local church, we can help one another. And we can care for those people in our lives, and we can help people reach the destination and reach it safely, And so this 3 weeks is just going to be super practical. And so I've got some practical tips for you. So the first one is this, and this is not rocket science, so we don't need any fanfare or drum roll. Here's the first bit of good advice. Don't travel alone. Don't travel alone. Don't travel alone. Please don't. My prayer for you, I said it a moment ago, my longing for you is that you've got somebody in your life. And maybe you don't have someone in your life right now. My prayer is that you would have someone in your life. Don't do life on your own. Don't journey on your own. We are created for connection. Human beings as a species, okay, let's just be scientific about it. That's not even, okay, let's just put faith to the side for a moment. From a scientific point of view, from a biology point of view, the human species is made for connection. We're wired for connection. We're wired for this desire and need for affirmation from others, encouragement from others, support for others. I've never seen a flock of geese sitting there and trying, doing whatever they do. That's a dumb analogy. Okay, let's go for a flock of sheep. That's better, actually. I'm making it up as we go along, okay? So have you ever seen a flock of sheep sitting there, and then one of them's eating the grass, and the other one's beside him going, go for it. You got it. You're eating that grass so well. Man, I've never seen anybody eat that grass as well as you. You know what? I bet you can take this whole field. Go for it. Come on, baby. Go for it. You don't see animals encourage one another. They got monkeys on a tree, and they're look at that. That's a big jump, man. I don't know if you can do it. Yeah, I can do it. I don't know. Maybe I'm okay. Whoa. Here we go. We don't humans are the only species that seem to encourage and affirm and build each other up in that way. Okay, animals communicate, of course they do, but we do it in a different way, a deeper way, don't we? And this is taking faith out of it. You're made for community. You're made for the need for affirmation, connection, association with others. We just wired this way. How many things would never have been invented or created by the human species if we didn't have that wiring deep in our souls? Nobody would have invented a smartphone. Nobody would have invented any other activities because we would have just been in our own little bubbles. We wouldn't have needed to try to connect with people and get in touch with people all around the world. There never would have been a phone. There never would have been, why would we have done those things? Why would we ever build a bunch of roads? Just think about the stuff that wouldn't have been built if as a human species we didn't have deep in our guts this desire and need to connect. And it's whether you're younger or older, you have that wiring. That's how God made you. God made you to connect. So we're made for connection. We are made to get connected. And my heart for you, as I said, is I hope there's somebody in your life that you can connect with. And when you hear stories of people whose lives have taken turns and gone directions they might not have ever wanted or expected or hoped for, sometimes when you hear these stories of people who've gone through the other side, they tell you about the people that were there along the way. You ever read biographies or hear some interviews, late night TV, or people talking about some of the stuff that they've experienced, stuff that they've been through? They tell stories. When they look back, they talk about the people that have been there along the journey. And we need people on our journey. We don't travel alone. Please don't travel alone. And I'm telling you what you already know because there's so much life experience already in this room and so much life experience online. You know this to be true. I'm telling you what you actually already know, don't you? This next bit is just to make me sound a bit more clever than I usually am. So, the University of Oxford has recently published some studies, and it was their Young Lives team, if you want to look it up, and they published some data, and they've been doing a study of 12,000 children from 4 different countries around the world. It's Ethiopia, Peru, Vietnam, and India. And the data has been assessed over a period of 20 years. And what they wanted to figure out, how come some children seem to make it through adversity in a different way than others? That was the basic premise. What is this idea of resilience? What is this idea of growth? So some sociological research. Are there any markers? Are there any clues? Are there any hints as to what helps people make it through adversity? And the group, as I say, 12,000 children studied over 20 years from 4 different nations. One of the key things that they found, one of the top things was this: those children who survived and overcame difficult circumstances, having a supportive relationship in their life was the top thing that made a difference for them. This has got nothing to do with faith. As I say, you might not be a believer. You might not yet have followed Jesus. You might not yet be a believer of Jesus. Okay, the University of Oxford, over 20 years, has said the biggest reason these children from 4 different nations seem to have overcome the odds was because they had supportive relationships in their life. It's key. It's critical. And that's one thing we want to do when we care for what we call our superstars. Our superstars is our children's ministry at this church. We want our superstars leaders. They're people who care for people because we want to inbuilt supportive relationships. And our luminous, with our youth, we care for the youth. We want there to be supportive relationships. With your fused groups, the small groups, we want there to be supportive relationships. That's the heart of it, because it makes a difference. It makes a difference to the outcome. It makes a difference to your destination. It makes a difference to where things are going to go in life. So we are all on this journey. This life is a journey. We're all on a highway. We are heading somewhere. And one of the key things we all need to know is don't travel alone. Don't travel alone. And it's easy to say, but it's not always easy to do, because I don't know about you, but sometimes there's this voice in my head. Maybe you have the same voice. If I think about it for a moment, it just says, I don't really need anybody else. I can do it on my own. I've actually been offended or upset or burnt by others. So instead of staying where it's awkward, I maybe pull back. In the temptation for us, especially as we grow older, as we grow up, because when we're children, we love to hang out with other people. We love to play. We love to do stuff. But as you get older, you start to realize what people are like. And it sort of changes your relationships. And you have to be wise, of course. I'm not saying to be an idiot. But the temptation to withdraw and isolate is really strong. It's super strong. Super, super strong. Again, you do not see a flock of sheep, and you do not see a sheep that gets upset about something that happened, and that little sheep walks away to the other side of the field and stays there by themselves and doesn't want to be with anybody. But we do that as humans. Something happens, or we just feel down about stuff, and our tendency is to withdraw. And so we have to fight that temptation. We have to fight that voice that tries to just pull us away. Do with that with wherever you feel like your life is. I want to talk for a moment just about how we make connections in life and how we, I got to find my prop. Here it is. So I got 2 little magnets here. So I want to talk a moment. See, they connect, don't they? Let's just talk for a little moment about the stuff that connects us, and then we're going to apply it to how it affects our lives. So there's just a little list of some things about how we get naturally connected as a human species, how we don't travel alone. We've got them on the screen here. So the first thing we've got there on this little list of not traveling alone is location. You're just in the same proximity with somebody. And that's a natural way that people start to connect. You live in the same town, you live in the same country, you went to the same school, you're in the same class. Just same sports team connection. It just happens. That's one of the ways we have a natural connection. What about activity? So activity is like when you do stuff together. You might have done some certain things together. Okay, not only are you at the same school or the same, but you worked on the same project, or you worked in some way together. You did something like that. You have these activities that you do together. I said as a child that how we would go on these camping and hiking trips, these backpacking trips as a child, and this connected our family even more when you spend some activity time together. And then like life experiences, age and stage. It's like when you first have maybe if you're in that situation, you had a brand new baby and you join a parents, mums and tots group. And there's everyone else who's in there is in the same like stage as you. And all of a sudden you can tell everybody about how horrible it is being up all night and everything that's going on. And this other person, they totally get it. They are like 100% with you. Or maybe you're an expat, you've moved to another country and you're sitting there having a coffee in a coffee shop, and all of a sudden you hear the accent on the other side of the room and you're like, all of a sudden, like you just have this immediate connection because it's like this, you have these shared experiences, this shared like sort of life experience. You just have shared life experiences. It can be shared trauma. It could be something that was tough or difficult and you actually shared it together and that made a connection. And then there's another one which is preferences. Now this is really popular, especially for those of you guys. I'm so chuffed. I'm absolutely blessed to bits that our teenagers are with us for this summer series. But we tend to go by preferences, so especially when you're younger. So a preference is this. They like the same music. They like the same sort of films, same type of like fashion sense or that type of stuff. And we navigate on the basis of preference, and they kind of, you sort of follow the same type of people on social media, or they just kind of get you and you kind of get them because you guys have the same taste. You have the same sort of tastes in life. But I want to move us a little bit deeper, because there's another thing that causes human connection, which is incredibly powerful. In fact, this next one is so powerful, it can absolutely change your life for the better or for the worse. This next powerful magnet of connection is acceptance. Acceptance. And it's especially powerful when you're in a season of transition. So you go to a new university, you go to a new college, you start a new job, you go to a new environment. Maybe you've been through a relationship, you've recovered from the relationship, and now you're ready to sort of go on the dating game again. You're ready to go back out there, okay? So especially in a season of transition, the magnet of acceptance is so powerful. When someone accepts you and they invite this invitation in and you become part of whatever group, whatever it is, or when you become part of something, that is a powerful, powerful connection. And acceptance is so powerful that before you know it, you can actually end up being a bit different when you're with that group of people than you were in another environment. It's so powerful that you can actually find yourself at times doing things you never thought you would do, or saying things you never thought you would say, or going along with things you never thought you would say, but because all of a sudden you have found this group, this tribe, this individual. And in the most abusive and traumatic situations that this happens and this experience takes place for people's lives is when humans abuse people in a physical relationship. And this person feels unable to leave because the connection of acceptance is so powerful, because they've allowed me in, they want me to be with them, and it's so powerful that it can become incredibly hard to break away. And this is why I say we have to be aware of this connection point in our lives. And if you're in a situation where you're thinking, hang on a minute, I might be in a dangerous situation, I might be in a situation that's unsafe, then please speak to somebody. Speak to one of us afterwards if we can. Because more than anything, you are precious, you are loved, and there's nobody that should treat you in such a way that you feel you have to compromise something of who you are just for the sake of somebody making you feel special. And it's powerful, and it's hard to untangle, but it's safe to untangle that. And I just want to encourage you, and I'll say, if you're in a position where you might feel like you're in a relationship like that, please say something. Please, please. Because this is the most gross thing that can happen in these powerful connections. You know, we're made this way, but people take advantage of it, don't they? And we know that, don't we? We know that. And so what I want to propose to you is another way to connect with people, and especially if you're younger, you're starting a new situation, or maybe you're going into a new work environment, new college, new university, new relationships. I want to propose another one that you should look to as your point of connection, and this is values. You want to find people who value what you value. When you find shared values, that becomes a stronger connection. See, what happens is when you find someone that shares your values, it doesn't matter that you don't like the same kind of music. When you find someone that shares your values, it doesn't matter whether you live in the same place or not. When you find somebody who shares your values, it doesn't matter whether you have had the same life experience or not. Because when you find somebody that shares your values, you know that person will have your back when the rubber hits the road. Now, maybe you're not yet in a relationship, and one day you would like to be in a relationship. Let me tell you this. Don't take the first person that says, yes, I want to go on a date with you, and swipes the right direction, okay? The best thing to find is somebody that values you, and they have values that you share. What's that look like, okay? So you're thinking, hey, let's just imagine you're young again, and you're thinking, hey, I kind of like that person, and he's kind of cute, or she's kind of cute, and you're thinking, I might wonder if we could spend some time. And you start to spend some time with them, and you get to know them a bit at school, and then you hear the way that they talk about some stuff, and the sort of way they talk about their own family, or maybe they talk about like how they would sort of cheat on a test, or I don't know, what other things do they talk about that you realize, hang on a minute, this person doesn't value family the same way I do. This person doesn't value integrity the same way I do. And no matter how great they are, no matter how much fun they are, don't just jump into somebody if they don't share the same values. So we can't travel alone in life. We don't travel alone. But let's be wise. We got to be wise people, don't we? And especially our young people, okay? Especially our young people. Find somebody that values what you value. They're the ones that are going to stick a bit longer. Looking for a business partner? Don't go for a business person who wants to cut corners and do sloppy work. Right? Looking for a new volunteer for your team that you run, and all they do is show up late and do shoddy work? That might not be the best person to say, I'm going to lean on. Okay, find people who you value and share the values. Those are the ones that you make some lifelong connections, okay? Find shared values. And those people are who you want in your innermost circle, the ones that share your values. It is incredibly important. And why are we spending so much time about this? Here's why. Because the people who are closest in our lives, in our innermost circle, the ones who are closest to us, actually affect and determine the direction of your life. The ones that you allow to be closest to your life affect the direction of your life. There's this book in the Bible. The Bible is a collection of books, a bunch of books put together. And one of the books in the middle of it was written by this guy named King Solomon. And Solomon was this king in ancient Israel, and Israel was all its glory and wonder and splendor. It's a sort of an epic ancient kingdom. And he wrote the whole book full of like one-liners, like little pithy sayings, little wisdom sayings. And since we're doing something practical and looking for wisdom and looking for advice, actually, he wrote something about this. In this book of Proverbs, he writes this. He writes, whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools suffers harm. Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise. Hey, hang out with fools and you become a fool. And it's an ancient way of doing writing. They often did this like opposites, contrasting and comparing. Hey, hang out with the wise, become wise. Hang out with an idiot, you're going to be like an idiot. It's just like this really simple, basic thing, but it's incredibly important because he understands that whoever walks with the wise over time becomes wise. So Solomon understands life is a highway. Life is a journey. It isn't just an immediate thing. It's going to have an impact on you over time. And over time, I'd like to be wise. I'd like to be wiser in the future. I'd like to be wiser in my parenting. I'd like to be wiser in the things I do. I'd like to be wiser in my leadership. I'd like to be wiser. I'd like to grow in wisdom. Wouldn't you? And the best thing we can do is learn to walk with the wise because the wise will help us become more wise. The contrast is true. The fools hang out with fools and you become a bit more foolish. See, over time, what can happen if let's say you've connected with somebody and you don't share the same values, what can happen over time is that person can affect you. And what happens is this leads us straight on to our second bit of good advice for today. So don't travel alone, and this is like the part of the one and the same. Don't travel alone and don't pick up strangers. Okay? You've seen enough movies to know it doesn't always go well if you pick up a stranger, right? So don't pick up strangers. Yeah? But we know, Solomon just told us, if you walk with the wise, you become wise, and if you pick up the fools, you become more foolish. So see, who you do life with has an impact on your future. Who you do life with has an impact on where you end up. Who you do life with has an impact on what everything looks like. Now, okay, here's what a stranger is. A stranger is someone that you find yourself over time, you have to compromise one of your values to still be associated with. And maybe at first it's just a little ding, little ping in your conscience, a little thing that just says, yeah, but I don't want to, it's okay, I'll just still. But over time, what can happen, because who you hang out with, who you let in your innermost circle will affect the trajectory of your life. What will happen is you might find yourself becoming a person totally different to what you thought you were ever going to be, maybe what your parents thought you were ever going to become, your family members. All of a sudden, something changes in the trajectory of your life. And here's another reason why this is so incredibly important for our young people, our teenagers who are with us this morning. It's important for everybody, of course. But when I was younger, the people I connected with were much more heavily in my own circle, my own proximity of where I lived. But nowadays, you have this incredible invention called social media. You can connect with people all around the world. And here's what can happen. Here's what we can do. We can connect to someone's ideas, someone's philosophy, someone's opinions, and you can go along with it. You don't even have to have met this person. It's just the fact that they're popular and it keeps showing up on all your feeds and it keeps, all my reels, these type of things just keep popping up or whatever's happening, this story and this thing, and someone else tags this person. You get tagged in it as well and you watch it and you think, oh wow, and you get pulled in. And here's what can happen. We can listen to people who think women should be treated like pieces of meat, and we think that's popular. Right? Right? Okay, let's be honest. Shouldn't a church be an honest place? Faith is the most honest, following Jesus is the most honest faith system in the world. It allows you to question it. It allows you to put everything on the table. And our society has an environment now where people can espouse any idea and you can connect with it. And there's people out there. Maybe you know people in your own life. Maybe there's friends in your own life, especially you boys. There might be somebody called Andrew Tate that you might have decided to watch some of his posts. And you might have thought, hey, I kind of agree with some of the stuff he's saying. You see, but at some point you have to realize that the people you allow into your life, if it's changing a value in you, that's not the right kind of connection. Oh, there's also people, okay, not just going off of, I don't want to get too political, of course, but anybody that thinks the only way that you empower the opposite sex is by disempowering the other is not a healthy value. The value of the kingdom, Jesus' value, is an equal value. He didn't have to dumb somebody down to lift somebody else up. He didn't have to push the other down to bring the other up. He wanted to bring people up. So if you're getting sucked into stuff that essentially is their message is basically, well, empowering the one to disempower the other, that's not a good value. Or what about this? I'm just watching these stories, and these things that are feeding into my heart and feeding into my mind just make me feel so ugly, fat, unworthy. I look at everything that they've got, and mine is just, compared to theirs, mine is just so like, theirs is perfect. And like, I just look at what they've got going on, and then I just think my life is so imperfect. Tell you what, that's not a good value to have in your heart. You are precious, you are loved, and just because your life isn't like this person's life who you have never met, it's got nothing to do with the value of who you are as a person. And this is why it's critical. It's critically important that you don't travel alone and you don't pick up strangers, because who you let into your life will affect your destination. Maybe some of you in this room have had a few years' experience and you're thinking, preach it, brother, because if I could tell you the stories about the people I hung out with when I was younger, and I'm thinking, oh my God, thank you so much that my life did not get stuck in that train. Whew. You know, there's enough experience in this room that we can care for one another and support one another in that situation. So that's it. Don't travel alone, and don't travel with strangers. It's so, so, so critically important. And I've got two questions for you as we close. Hang on. If you're traveling with somebody that's a stranger, stop the car and get them out. Stop following them on social media. I don't know what you need to do, but if you're traveling with somebody who's a stranger in your life that is not good for you, kick them out, okay? Show them the door. It doesn't mean that they're not loved by God. It doesn't mean that they're not a precious individual. It just means that for you, you're not this person that's supposed to have them in the car with you. You're just going to have to let somebody else care for them, because right now for you, it's not good for you to have that person traveling with you. It doesn't mean that you hate them. It doesn't mean that they're no good. It doesn't mean that they're rubbish people, because we believe God cares and loves for everyone. So if you're in that position, you're in that situation, get them out of your life and trust that someone else will care for them. It doesn't have to be you. I hope that makes sense. Super practical series. But here we go. 2 questions as we close and wipe this up. Have you got someone to walk with you? And is anybody traveling with you that makes you less healthy? My heart is you have somebody who travels with you. And if you have somebody traveling with you currently who's making you less healthy, please say something. Please do something about it. Stop following them, stop whatever. Let's do something about it. We've got small groups. We call them our fused groups. And our fused groups are the tagline for our fused groups, which is our home groups, our small groups that get together, places of safety and places of strength. That's what we want our small groups to be. Not places of performance. You don't have to know all the Bible. You don't have to pretend to put a mask on. All you have to do is show up and be real. And we want our small groups to be places of strength and safety, because who you journey with, who you share your life with, has an impact on how your future turns out. Let's just pray together. Amen. Thank you, Jesus. God, I just thank you so much, God, that all of us, wherever we are in our lives at this moment, God, that you're so practical, God. Thank you that you are involved in our lives, and thank you that you give us wisdom to work out everyday practical life. And I just pray for everybody here. First, God, I pray that they would have somebody in their life who's cheering them on, somebody who is supportive and good for them, somebody who is genuinely good for them. God, I just ask that that would be in place. I ask that would be in place for our children, God, for our teenagers, and every adult here, God. I ask that there would be somebody in their life who is good for them, a good connection. God, we thank you for community. And God, I also just pray that each of us would have wisdom to know whether this person is good for us or not. And Father, when we know that this person is not good for us, I ask that you would give each of us the strength and the courage to do something about it. However awkward, however uncomfortable, give us the courage to make the right decisions and do something about it. Lord, we thank you so much for who you are. God, we love you for all that you're doing in our lives. In your name we pray. Amen. Our children, young people, our superstars are here. They're going to be in that back room. If you got little ones, please remember to collect them. I know we're doing some stuff slightly different over the summer. If you're able to stick around, please do stick around. We will have the football game. We're going to catch a second half. It'll be going on in that room, and there's going to be a bunch of fruit as well set up in the side room. So if you are able to stick around, please stick around. And if you have any questions about what we talked about, I'd love to chat to you. So, yeah, have an awesome week. Thank you.